And welcome to tonight's Planning Committee of the 12th of March 2025. The first item on the agenda, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies? Councillor Golvin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Filmer is not present, and I'm hoping that Councillor Brake will come and substitute for him shortly. And unfortunately, Councillor Filmer's wife is not very well, so I'm sure you'd all join me in wishing her a speedy recovery.
Yeah, if you can pass on our wishes to him, thank you. Councillor Mandarakis.
Hi, I'm subbing for Councillor Maritime, who is not very well at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Turpin.
Thank you. Apologies from Councillor Pearce, who's here as a ward councillor tonight, so I'm subbing for him. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, item agenda 2 is a record of the meeting held on the 15th of January 2025, along with the update in the supplementary agenda approved. Item 3 on the agenda, I can confirm that there are no late items which do not appear on the main agenda. Item 4, do any members have any disclosable pecuniary interests or other significant interests? Councillor Golvin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to declare that I haven't got any interest in the planning application tonight, but because part of that planning application concerns an area of land that has got a military history behind it, to save the monitoring officer's time being wasted again, I'd like to make it perfectly clear, although my brother Keith is the renowned expert on Medway's military artefacts, he and I have not discussed the who stop line, I think, for at least 5 or 6 years. And I'd like to make that perfectly clear, so anybody who wants to try and report me to the monitoring officer will be wasting their time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Golvin. Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, Chair. My usual declaration, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Turpin.
Yeah, just in case, the same declaration as Councillor Etheridge, and I sit on the Finsbury Extra Parish Council.
Okay, thank you. For the next item on the agenda... Oh, sorry, Councillor Vi.
Yes, sorry about that, Chair. Yes, I refer to planning application MC 232857, land at the former Sturdee Club and land at Stoke Road, Who, ME39BJ. And that I'm aware that St Mary Who Parish Council have objected to this planning application, and that you know the St Mary Who Parish Council clerk, and that they are also the clerk of Reform UK. However, I have taken no view on this planning application, and I will remain during the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Councillor Broke. We're just doing any disclosable pecuniary interests or other significant interests. Do you have anything to disclose? No? No. Okay, thank you. Well, that's fine. For the next item on the agenda, Councillor Sands, Councillor Croser and Councillor Pearce have asked to speak as ward councillors. Is this agreed by members? Good, thank you. So moving on to agenda item 5, planning application for land at the former Sturdee Club. Senior planner Aaron Nichols will be presenting this application. So over to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good evening, committee members. Can I first draw members' attention to the supplementary agenda, which contains revised conditions and amended recommendation to approve, subject to receiving no objection from Active Travel England. I would also like to amend the reasons for condition 24 to reference the retention of the bungalows as bungalows. This application is for the demolition of the former Sturdee Sports Club and the construction of 134 residential dwellings, a children's nursery, a cafe community centre, 3 commercial retail units, alongside the provision of a number of open spaces and play areas. The proposed dwellings would range from 1 to 2 stories in height and be a mixture of bungalows, detached, terraced and semi-detached houses. And the application is being brought to committee as a result of a number of objections. This slide shows the site location plan. And this slide shows the 3 parcels of land that form the application site in relation to the wider context, with the existing settlement of St Werburgh to the west, the Peninsula Way to the north, the Kingsnorth Industrial Estate and Retail Industrial Estate to the east, and the River Medway to the south. The application site is made up of 3 distinctive parcels, with parcel A being the westernmost parcel, located on the southern side of Stoke Road, parcel B located to the north of Stoke Road, and the larger parcel C to the east and is located adjacent to the Ropers Lane roundabout. This slide shows the proposed sites in relation to the nearby sites which have been granted residential planning approval. The neighbouring site, shown in orange, has been granted outline planning consent for 100 dwellings, with a current reserved matters application currently submitted. Taylor Wimpey has secured planning permission on a number of applications to the south of Stoke Road, shown in blue for 200 units, yellow for 127 units, and 17 units in green, with the majority of which have been constructed. To the north of Stoke Road, Jones Homes have delivered 65 homes, shown in pink, and Esquire have delivered 50 dwellings, shown in blue. This slide shows the proposed site layout in relation to 3 land parcels, as discussed with parcel A on the left, parcel B to the north, and parcel C to the right. This slide shows the wider views towards the application site, with image 1 shows a view towards Ropers Lane roundabout and parcel C, whilst image 2 shows views towards the north, showing parcel A and the completed Taylor Wimpey site. Images 3 and 4 show a wider view of the sites from the River Medway, whilst image 5 shows a view to the north towards parcel C. This slide shows images in relation to parcel A. Image 1 provides a view towards the west along Stoke Road, whilst images 2 and 4 provide views towards the south from Stoke Road across the parcel. Image 3 provides views towards the south. And image 5 provides a view towards the northeast from the south of the site. This slide shows images in relation to parcel B, with image 1 showing a view towards the east along Stoke Road, image 2 showing a view towards the west along Stoke Road, and image 3 providing a view towards the south west from Roper's Lane. And this slide shows images of parcel C. Image 1 provides a panoramic view towards the south from the Roper's Lane roundabout, whilst image 2 shows the derelict former Sturdee Club and the Roper's Lane roundabout. And image 3 and 4 provide views across parcel C looking towards the Roper's Lane roundabout and the estuary. Parcel A comprises a total of 50 residential units alongside the provision of around 1 hectare of open green space. The design of the scheme enables connections to the existing public right-of-way which crosses the parcel from the west to the east in the northern part of the parcel. The layout of the scheme has been heavily informed by the historic features contained within the site, notably the Who stop line and the associated pillboxes. The Who stop line was an anti-tank ditch that ran from the River Medway across the peninsula and is shown in the purple map on the top of the map, and its path is shown in blue on the lower map across parcel A. The original stop line ditch is no longer physically present upon the site, however some structures remain. Images 1 and 2 show remaining pillboxes and associated defence structures located to the south of the site adjacent to the estuary, whilst images 4 show the rough location of the stop line across the site. One pillbox is located within the application site and is shown in image 3, covered in vegetation, whilst one is located on the adjacent property. Parcel A has been designed around the Who stop line and proposes to create a large open park in the area surrounding the pillboxes, uncovering the overgrown one contained within the site, creating a new swale across the site that will follow the original alignment of the Who stop line. Alongside these, an information board will be erected to provide historical information in relation to the stop line, and a condition is included to secure this. This slide shows the proposed house type mix with a mixture of 1 to 2 3-bed affordable housing units provided towards the north of the site, with a mixture of 2 and 3-bed private units located in the centre and detached 4 and 5-bed houses around the green space. Parcel B is the smallest of the parcels and proposes to deliver 13 units. The layout of Parcel B has been informed by the existing adjacent sturdy cottages to the east of the site and has been designed to appear as a natural continuation of the existing linear development along Stoke Road. And this slide shows the proposed housing mix type, which is proposed to be 12 times 3-bedroom homes, 1 times 4-bedroom homes, with vehicular access through the middle from Stoke Road, leading to parking, a landscape area to the rear, which is proposed to contain a local area of play. Parcel C is the largest of the parcels and is proposed to contain 83 residential units. A nursery, a community cafe hub, and 3 commercial units alongside the provision of around 2 hectares of open green space. The design of Parcel B has been heavily informed by the pylons and the associated overhead cables that run the length of the eastern boundary of the site, while the road access into the site has been influenced by the Roper's Lane roundabout. The proposal seeks to create 2 open public spaces, an eco-park underneath the pylons to enable on-site ecology mitigation and enhancements, helping to maximising the site's biodiversity, and the creation of a green space that relates directly to the community hub and nursery located in the centre of the site. This slide shows the proposed layout with the commercial properties to the east, which are located here, and the nursery and the community centre are proposed to be located here. And this slide shows the proposed housing type mix with a mixture of 1 to three-bed houses for affordable housing provided towards the north of the site, and a mixture of 2 and 3-bed units for over 55s located towards the southeast of the site, and a mixture of 2 to 4-bed homes around the centre of the site. This slide shows the proposed parking strategy across all of the parcels of land, which exceeds the minimum requirements, with individual parking areas provided for the commercial units to the east and for the nursery and community facility to the west on parcel C. The proposed vehicular access to each parcel will come from new junctions from Stoke Road, with parcels A and B served by 1 new junction per parcel, whilst parcel C would be served by 2 new junctions, 1 to the east and 1 to the west from Stoke Road, to enable vehicular access to the proposed dwellings and mixed commercial units. This slide proposes an overview of the landscaping for the site, which include the planting of wildflower and rough grasslands, native trees, native hedgerows, and conditions are included for the submission of further details in relation to boundary treatments, hard and soft landscaping works, lighting and landscaping. This slide shows further details in relation to landscaping. A key part of the design of the scheme has been to maintain views towards the Medway estuary from Stoke Road, as well as from a number of points from within the proposed land parcels, which are shown on the map via the red arrows, which can be seen, these ones which can be seen. So not only are there views across the site from Stoke Road, but also smaller views from located from inside each parcel. As covered in the report, the proposed scheme will result in the loss of the former Sturdee Club sports facility, which was located on parcel C, and has been closed for over 12 years and is now in a state of dereliction. A key part of the design for the new scheme is the provision of community facilities, not just in relation to the community cafe centre, but also for the provision of open space, play facilities and sports provision. Across the 3 parcels, 4 local area of plays, 2 local area of plays, and an outdoor fitness zone are proposed, and a condition is included to secure these. It is considered that these provisions on site outweigh the loss of the former Sturdee Club. This slide shows the walking distances to the village centre from each parcel of land, as well as to the bus stop adjacent to the Five Bells Public House. From parcel A, the distance would be a 14-minute walk, from parcel B, a 15-minute walk, and from parcel C, an 18-minute walk. This is considered to be within a walkable distance to the existing facilities, in addition to the community facilities which will be delivered on-site in the form of the cafe, community centre and nursery. It will also link into footpaths of neighbouring recent developments, as well as the public right-of-way. This slide provides a selection of the front elevations and floor plans for the affordable housing units. And this slide provides a selection, again, of elevations and floor plans for some of the market units, for the 2-bed bungalows, the 3-bed dormer bungalows and 2-bed houses. And this slide shows further market housing for 3-bed houses, 4-bed houses and 5-bed houses. All of the proposed affordable and private housing either meets or exceeds the minimum size requirements as set out in the National Described Space Standards and provides a suitable level of amenity space. And this slide shows the elevations and floor plans for the proposed commercial units located on parcel C. And this slide shows the elevations and floor plans for the proposed community cafe centre and the nursery building located on parcel C. These street scenes provide visual representations of the proposal, with the top image showing houses along the southern boundary of parcel A, and the bottom showing housing along the southwestern boundary of parcel C. The top image shows houses and bungalows along the northwestern boundary of parcel C. And the bottom image shows the street scene on one of the proposed commercial units, again on parcel C. Overall, the proposal is considered to be acceptable as it will provide a policy-compliant mix of affordable housing alongside market housing, a good level of community facilities and play space to serve the future occupants of the development. Therefore, the development is recommended for a resolution to approve, subject to securing Section 106 contributions and receiving no objection from Active Travel England and the revisions to the reason of Condition 24. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, will Councillor Sands, would you like to come up to speak for 5 minutes?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Committee, for allowing us ward councils to address you on this planning application of Stoke Road, Who. Who has a very rich history. Artefacts uncovered in Who in 1903 were dated from the year 359 BC. This was in the reign of Philip II of Macedonia, who, as we are all aware, went on to father Alexander the Great. As a small village, Who was recorded in the Domesday Book of 1086 as having 197 households. In 1941, Who was designated a defended village, with a battalion of nearly 1,000 troops stationed within the Who stop line, ready to defend our nation should Hitler's army reach the shores. And the remnants of that stat line are in and very close to this application. Kent was known as the Garden of England, and the Who Peninsula, often referred to as the fruit basket of England, for the excellent fruits grown here thanks to our rich and agricultural land. Very close to this application is Yew Tree Lodge, built in 1875 as the village school. My mother attended that school, however, not in 1875. It is now a home for senior citizens, most suffering from dementia and all diagnosed as EMI, elderly mentally infirm. And these elderly residents require routine without stress and without upset, and they deserve as such. This application and other applications that have been going on there are robbing them of that. The destruction of Stoke Road to Who has been tantamount to vandalism, and all on the altar of unsustainable developments. In this headlong rush to try to meet unachievable housing numbers set by successive governments. Members, how we treat our land will in the long run tell future generations what type of people we were. We should want to be remembered with gratitude for our stewardship of the land, rather than contempt. Contempt for leaving nothing more than unrestricted urban sprawl. I'm reminded of a lyric from the Eagles, The Last Resort. Some rich men came and raped the land, and nobody caught them. They put up some ugly boxes, and people bought them. I urge you to reject this application.
Thank you, Councillor Sands. Councillor Croser, would you now like to come up? Yeah, you can start now. Your 5 minutes starts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to address the committee on behalf of residents concerning this application. I come before you today, committee, with a deep connection to the Who Peninsula and a genuine concern for its future. My roots in this village and on the peninsula in general run deep, and I remember a time when community thrived around places like the Sturdee Club. For those of you unfamiliar with the Sturdee Club, it was a vital social hub in Hoo, existing well before 1970. Originating from a cricket pavilion for Bury Wiggins, it evolved into a place where residents gathered, forged lasting relationships and celebrated life's milestones together. The loss of the Sturdee Club, alongside other important establishments like the BP Club, the Golf Club, Bridge Tavern and Windmill Public House, have been deeply felt by the community, depriving residents of crucial spaces for social interaction and leisure activity. We now, of course, welcome the Deangate Ridge development and improvements it should bring, and are grateful for the provision it's being made to address the area of health and well-being of residents. However, Madam Chair, I must raise some significant concerns relating to the existing planning and development approach on the peninsula. I note that this application includes provision for play areas and open recreational spaces. While this sounds positive, recent developments, particularly in areas like Chatham, have implemented a concerning trend. These spaces are often restricted solely to the residents of the development, maintained through service agreements with management companies. Historically, play areas built before 2019, maintained by the Council or Parish Council, are open spaces open to the general public, therefore accessible to everyone in the village. This policy, Madam Chair, creates division within our community. Residents are often led to believe that new developments will provide additional amenity for everyone to enjoy, but this isn't the case. This requires a rethink of the policy. At the very least, a clear explanation is needed during the public consultation stage. Madam Chair, my most pressing concern, however, revolves around the fundamental issue of transport infrastructure capacity. In 2019, this very council recognised that the Hoo Peninsula faced significant challenges, limited infrastructure and services, an internationally important environment and isolation. Cabinet was presented with modelling data that showed the A289, A228 operated at near full capacity and the only access point through an air quality management area at 4 Elms Hill. The strategic transport modelling for the local plan at that time indicated that we could only bring forward approximately 1,000 homes on the Hoo Peninsula before major infrastructure improvements were brought forward. The planning team further advised that much of this capacity was already approved development, but not yet built out. And crucially, they warned that without housing infrastructure funding to complete modal shift and transport improvements, there would be no capacity for further housing growth. Madam Chair, since that assessment in 2019 and up to 2024, a further 1,568 development schemes have been granted or built on the Hoo Peninsula. In the light of the acknowledged limitations of 2019 and the subsequent approvals, I can only conclude that no further development schemes should be granted on the Hoo Peninsula. If necessary, new applications should be rejected and vigorously defended. We must prioritise the well-being of our existing community. We cannot continue to burden already strained infrastructure and exacerbate the issues identified by this council itself. Let us ensure that any new developments truly benefit the entire community and do not come at the expense of our quality of life. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Croser. Councillor Pearce, if you'd like to now come up and speak. If your time starts now.
Thank you, Chairperson and members. There are planning policy compliance issues with the proposal, and there are fundamental problems with the lack of infrastructure capacity locally to absorb this development and also the pressures it creates. This is a mixed-use application, mostly residential, but there is some employment. The site, which is greenfield and active farmland, is of course not allocated in the 2003 local plan, but it's also not allocated in the most up-to-date development plan, this being the neighbourhood plan. The employment element clearly conflicts with policy WHO1 of the neighbourhood plan, which only allows new employment on specifically brownfield sites, either within the existing village envelope, adjacent to the village envelope, or existing brownfield sites in the vicinity. The other significant policy conflict with the proposal is with paragraph 104 of the National Planning Policy Framework and also policy L3 of the 2003 local plan concerning sports facilities and open space. This is yet another sports facility being built on locally despite the population of the village growing over recent years. National planning policy requires the applicant to undertake an assessment to work out if existing sports provision is surplus to requirements, and they need to replace the provision with the same or something better. The applicant hasn't done this. The way to solve both policy conflicts and to make the proposal acceptable is for the applicant to remove the employment units on the eastern part of Parcel C and to replace them with a new sports club and playing field. What we have in front of us this evening is half a plan and half a development. Parcel B is acceptable in its own right. If it was brought forward on its own, that would be accepted. Parcel C is isolated development, detached from the village and conflicts with national and local policy. Parcel A is poorly designed on its own, and the elephant in the room here is what's happening with the large missing parcel in the middle between Parcel A and Parcel C. With around 900 new houses along Stoke Road, either with permission or proposed, what we actually need in Who is not new houses or more houses, is a new primary school. We need a new primary school for the eastern part of the village, specifically on Stoke Road. There's a precedent here because Yew Tree Lodge was previously a school before it became a care home. It takes more than 20 minutes to walk from the site to the centre of Who, and it will take around 35 minutes to walk to the nearest primary school on Pottery Road. A new primary school on Stoke Road would be within walking distance of these 900 properties, complying with the 15-minute neighbourhood scheme. If this application is ultimately approved following consultation with all the required statutory consultees, I believe the applicant should bring forward plans for a full-size primary school on the missing parcel of land in between Parcel A and Parcel C. This would be supported. As the committee will know from my representations quoting Medway Council's own documents, primary schools in Who have been full since 2015, and we desperately need more primary school places for the local community. We can't cope as a village at the moment with the permitted development to date, and this won't be solved with further development, which will just exacerbate existing problems. We need to fix the infrastructure deficit which currently exists for local residents today, and as mentioned in my representations as well, we need more clarity and information about the proposed bus route along Stoke Road. We need to know if this will affect existing services in Who and take away provision from a large part of the existing community. We need to know where the bus stops will be and what will the timetable look like. And lastly, just to say, Chairperson, the applicant has said that the Parish Council specifically asked for a community hub and cafe on the site. I've spoken to the Parish Clerk today and this is not correct. I need to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. I now open the floor to members. Any members? Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's been some compelling arguments for a deferral on this application given by the ward councillors. And not only the arguments that they put forward, I have a couple of my own. So if the retail areas actually go ahead, there's nothing in any of the conditions regarding those retail areas, especially in the condition in which they're built. No living wall, no plan for the direction of the traffic coming in and out, no plan for when those deliveries can take place, no plan for when those retail areas will actually be opened. More importantly, Chair, on the section 11, is it 11 or 6, regarding the provision for SEND education. Many members here may not be aware, but a lot of the SEND educational facilities within Medway have members. In other words, they have shareholders. So why are we giving money to a school that has shareholders that will take those profits and share out to shareholders? Therefore, there should be a positive provision going forward to send education that has no shareholders, and that's not been done either. So I think there are a number of reasons why this should be deferred. And then finally, it should be deferred to allow members here to have a site visit so they can see exactly what the situation is in that area. And therefore, that is my proposal, a deferred proposal along with a site visit. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel that we can't keep requesting site visits and deferments because it's just delaying planning applications. It seems to be happening a lot regularly now, but, you know, it could have been discussed before. Did anyone want to come back yet, or shall I carry on? Okay, Councillor Hammond-Shea.
Thank you very much. This is a sensitive development, I must say, and I do appreciate all the comments that have already been heartfelt and expressed. But there were two glaring things that I want to point out. One was Pierce's mention that this is active farmland, and that was not picked up within the documentation at all, because active farming, as I'm looking up the definition, is active farming is when a farmer who runs an operation and is engaged in day-to-day farming activities that earns an income. So I'm not too sure why Councillor Pearce put in there the question of active farmland. So could I have that clarified here as well? Another one was around the employment opportunities. I do recognize that whose heritage also requires people to have meaningful employment as well. Schools are important, but equally employment is important as well. People shouldn't have to always travel out of who for work and employment, and this is what this offers. And lastly, I just want to say that deferring is a costly exercise. It's not needed in this particular case. I think we should be able to judge this on its merits alone and make a decision. I don't think this warrants a deferment. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron, did you want to come back now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In regards to part of the site does form agricultural land, but as a result of the Council's housing land supply, it is recognised that some agricultural sites will need to be released to allow for a suitable supply of land in order to meet the Council's housing delivery targets. And in regards to the use for the commercial units on site, apologies, the application site is close to the Kings North industrial site, but it is recognised that employment sites on this particular site would offer a different type of employment to those that already exist on the peninsula.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Pierce's comment was it was active farmland. Can you just clarify that position, please?
Yep, so some of the site does form active farmland, but as I stated, as a result of the Council's housing land supply, it is recognised that some agricultural sites will need to be released.
Thank you. Yeah, do you want to come back, Dave?
Chair, thank you very much, and thank you, Aaron, for clarifying in terms of the agricultural. Councillor Hammond-Shea, I 100% agree with you in relation to the employment. The employment here helps to make this development sustainable. I do understand Councillor Pearce's a point regarding the neighbourhood plan and where it looks to go for employment development on brownfield sites, town centre, and so on. The businesses that would locate here, there are no sites in the town centre that they would go. So you're looking at insurance offices, businesses, hairdressers, those sort of uses could potentially take place here. The applicants, for instance, if they've got their business, their main headquarters, they would like to locate here. So they're not dirty general industrial uses. So they're not the uses that would take place on Kings North Industrial Estate. And there are no sites within the town centre that they could go. But they are, as you quite rightly point out, Councillor Hammond-Shea, they are important businesses, and they would provide really valuable employment for local people, some of whom will be within walking distance of this site. So just supporting you on that point, Councillor Hammond-Shea.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor Galvin, I think it was next year. Councillor Galvin, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notwithstanding the very valid points put by the ward councillors, those of us on the committee that have read item 6 on this agenda will have ascertained that we will, as a planning committee, would have to have cast iron reasons for overriding officers' recommendations and turning a planning application like this down. But I would like to think that we can vote for this quite happily and approve it without the thought of having the government's big stick waggling over us. The 134 units that this development will provide will make a good contribution towards our housing target. The developer has a proven track record for delivering good quality, attractive looking schemes in Medway and around this area. The developer, being an SME, should be able to have a much shorter build-out period than with a large developer. There's a good mix of housing types here, which will support local needs, and the houses well exceed the national requirements. And the other thing that, as I mentioned before, the WHO stock line, I think that's been very sensibly treated and will come back to be, as it should be, a major feature. So I think, although I accept some of the arguments that the local councils have put forward, and none of these things are black and white, but I think the balance on this application is firmly in the grounds of having it approved. I will have no hesitation in voting for it. I think it will be a good development for Medway, and it will be a good development for WHO, particularly, as has been said, with some of the commercial units there that are not available in the vicinity. One of the ward members mentioned the loss of local public houses. Well, that will often depend on the amount of people available to use them. And this increase of population will make existing businesses more sustainable and encourage other businesses to come into, because they'll have the critical mass of people on their doorstep. So I would be not supporting a deferment of this. I believe this application should be determined this evening, and I think as a committee we can quite rightfully vote for it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Galvin. Councillor Peake.
Thank you. Good timing, because, oh dear, once again I find myself agreeing with Councillor Galvin. I've really got to get out of this habit. I was waiting for Councillor Etheridge to hear some meat on the bones. Because when you actually think about the 3 representations, it's obviously they're going to come here, and thank them for coming. I was listening for planning reasons why we would turn this down. I objected to the inferences of rush. Hopefully they were not referring to our officers rushing, because I do not believe they do, nor do I believe this process is. Maybe there's this like a sort of general idea we've been rushed into building houses. What rush? There's been a need for housing, so people like my children can actually afford a house. Just because I'm okay, I want other people to be able to afford houses. Where is this rush? So that kind of creates some sense of fear, which I don't agree with. I'm also very interested in history. That was interesting. I'm not being sarcastic, I actually mean it. That was very interesting. But history or sentiment are not reasons for turning this down. So I was waiting then when Councillor Etheridge, sorry, I feel let down, I'm afraid. I usually hear something that I can work with. This is a planning reason to have a basis for turning this down. I did not hear any. There was general comment made by Councillor Pearce about Plot A and Plot C not being appropriate, or words to that effect. Well, validate those statements. I didn't hear any rationale behind that at all. nor did I hear anything to support the idea of deferment. No case was presented to say we need deferment because of. So as it stands, I certainly will be supporting this planning application, and we need to remember, all of us on this committee can't just turn something down. So I feel like a broken record. We cannot turn something down just because we don't like it. You need specific planning reasons why. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Peake. Councillor Field.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, as a Sturdee councillor, I'm a great fan of white vans. And I just wanted to ask, just firstly, before I talk about the principle more generally, I've been aware of similar sites in similar locations elsewhere, Medway, where there's been covenants or agreements that residents wouldn't park white vans within such developments, potentially for aesthetic reasons. And this has caused issues with displacement of such vans, and I can see that would be sensitive around here and in the village generally. So I just wanted, firstly, just to see if we could get a qualification from officers about whether there's anything that we can do to prevent those vehicles being unable to park in residential properties, because I know a lot of our skilled tradespeople will be looking to buy such property, and it would be a shame if they have to park elsewhere or indeed cause great convenience. And then I got a contribution.
Chair. Oh, sorry, Pete. I didn't realise you were going to. If you want to add on afterwards, please do, Pete, with your experience. It's very likely, as you know, Councillor Field, we spoke to the applicant beforehand, that this company, along with most developers, impose such a covenant for a variety of reasons. I've got that covenant on the estate I live in, and it's 15, 20 years old. All we can do is pass that message on to the developer. It's not a restriction we look to pose, but the developers can impose their own covenants.
Thank you for clarifying that. More broadly in the principles of the development, I agree with a lot of the contributions tonight that this seems a well-rounded, a good mixed-use development that provides active, in particular, I'm glad to see that it provides active and new high-quality play areas, and actually Councillor Crowe's contribution talking about the loss of the Sturdee Club. Actually, it's heartening to see a community centre and cafe actually being brought into this, and as well as the industrial units, which kind of makes it a much more rounded development than some developments we quite often see here. So it's good to see that. And also, I think, you know, Councillor Sands, I think, makes an interesting point in terms of saying, you know, what will future generations think? And there is always a balance between protecting and enhancing the environment. And, you know, I think we see significant amount of environmental measures in this development. But I in particular think of the 818 children in Medway that live in temporary accommodation, and you know there is a need for more housing and more housing in sustainable ways, and I think that this is a positive contribution that will, you know, it's got 25% affordable housing that can in some ways start to make amends on such a housing crisis that we see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Field. There's actually over 900 people now living, children living in temporary accommodation. So since they last did it, that's nearly 100 more. So it is important that we do have our housing. Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a couple of points from me and then a question. In terms of Councillor Sands' comments quoting the Eagles pop group, I have to say on this occasion I don't agree with Councillor Sands. I think that as Councillor Field has set out, these are well-designed properties with amenities and will be of great benefit to the area if members are minded to agree the application tonight. The second point I wanted to comment on was the amount of infrastructure funding. Obviously, I shan't be detailing all these 16 points when I move the recommendations before too long, but I just wanted to highlight some of them here and now. We've already heard about the minimum 25% affordable housing, £150,000 towards improved open space and outdoor formal sport within the WHO area, £489,000, £169.09 for primary provision, £387, £585.48 for secondary provision, again as with the primary provision or send within Medway, £95,201, 64 pence, beg your pardon, health contribution towards extension, refurbishment or upgrading of existing proactive premises within the vicinity or contribution to a new health facility. I'm reading these out so as the public that may be here and may be listening can appreciate that this application includes considerable developer contributions for infrastructure of the sort that the ward councillors have often asked for and lobbied for in the past. Chair, my question was just on the condition 24, I think it was, the senior planner said about bungalows. I just wanted to be clear what in layperson's terms that new condition on bungalows meant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aaron, did you want to come back on that now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Apologies. So the changes were just to the reasons. There's no change to the actual condition. It was just to the reason why it was required, and it's just basically to maintain that those units remain as bungalows.
Thank you, Aaron. Councillor Turpin.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a few sort of points or concerns with regards to it. So I think each individual parcel on its own, no particular issue as such, but I think it's just the layout of having those individual sites that are quite isolated in an already sort of isolated part of WHO. You know, it's on the outskirts of the village. So I think that's why, I mean, I would support Councillor Etheridge's request of a site visit, because I think it's very different to other parts of Medway, and for members to be able to sort of understand that. I mean, I've got the neighbouring ward, but I'm still not, you know, hugely familiar with this area. I do know it fairly well, but just the small sort of details of things like paths and things, you know, if we want people to sort of, we're saying it's, I don't know, 15, 20-minute walk. I think it is a bit further than that, certainly to the 100 of WHO, you're looking at half an hour walk. So for a teenager sort of doing that from this site, you know, we need to know that it's safe to be doing that. And I'm not sure there is paths all along that area, or whether there's going to be paths. I mean, I'm sort of looking at it thinking it's potentially mowed grass at the side of the roads. So, you know, that's something I'm concerned about. The sports provision sort of take, you know, I think Councillor Pearce made that comment about sort of if we're taking something away, it should be replaced. The active travel, I just wanted to ask when we did actually consult, because I know that was a supplementary in saying we hadn't consulted, but obviously we have got a response now, but I just wanted to know when that was done. And have we consulted with Sports England? Should that be done? And I think if that's something that we're doing later as part of the recommendation, that I think, you know, we shouldn't be making a decision on that without having that back from Sports England. And then finally, I've got real concern with regards to the pylons that are right in the middle of the site. I mean, it's not just like neighbouring. I think, didn't you mention that we're actually building the parks underneath them or something? So that I've just got concerns with regards to that, because there are potential health concerns with it. I mean, there's like a noise element from them. You do get this constant low-level noise from pylons, but I've got real concerns with regards to the health. And there's not necessarily anything proven on that, but there is quite strong suggestions with regard to sort of childhood cancer and leukemia, and potentially 5 cases per year. And although they say that's low, because it's out of 500, it's five cases too many when it's something that can be avoided, and it's potentially low because we haven't got that many housing that's right under a pylon. But if we're going to be building more like that, we're going to be increasing the numbers of childhood leukemia. So that's a real concern to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turpin. Aaron, if you want to come back on that, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In regards to access into kind of the existing St Werburgh, there is a footpath that runs along on the southern side of the site. There isn't a footpath on the northern where parcel B is, but it does run all the way along from kind of Roper's Lane all the way across. In regards to the pylons, they run on the eastern boundary of the site, and they run along here, just so committee members can see. And underneath those is proposed like a mixed orchard directly underneath them. I think on the other questions we're going to... Yeah, and then BNG as well, in ecology improvements.
Yeah, Pete, did you want to come in as well?
Yes, thank you, Chair. In relation to the Sport England point, because the site which had the previous playing field on it hadn't been in use as a playing field at any time in the last 5 years, there's no requirement, no statutory requirement to consult Sport England. So that's why they weren't consulted. There's a further element as part of the requirement is in relation to land that's allocated as a playing field, but this relates to future allocations of playing fields where they do not currently exist. So that's in that regard, there's no statutory requirement to consult Sport England. And we have had confirmation from someone at Sport England saying that it wouldn't be a statutory requirement to consult them on this. I think the other question was about Active Travel England, and so we recently consulted them within the last couple of days, and that's why the amended recommendation as part of the supplementary seeks approval subject to the expiry of that consultation period and the imposition of any recommended conditions as a result of that consultation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Turpin, did you want to come back?
Yeah, just if I could please, just on the path, sorry, because I'm not that great with my north and myself and east and west when I'm looking at these. So could you just show on there where the path does run, sort of, and is it a continuous path?
It is a continuous path from parcel B on that side of the Stoke Road all the way down to the centre of Who.
A concrete path?
Yes. Well, tarmac path, yeah.
Oh, tarmac, yeah.
And in addition to that, sorry, Councillor Turpin, in addition to that, as you cross over the roundabout onto the far side, there is an amazing cycleway footpath, yeah, which goes all the way from that roundabout all the way around to Kingsnorth, and also from right the way up Roper's Lane as well, joining into a further cycleway footpath which runs alongside the A228. Aaron's showing the condition of the footpath which runs along there.
Is that the side? Oh, where's that? I'm just trying to look. I'm looking on Google Maps.
That's the one on Stoke Road. So that's the path which runs all the way from the site right the way down Stoke Road to the centre of Who.
Okay. Councillor Turpin, you mentioned a request for a site visit. Is that a formal request?
Well, I was seconding Councillor Etheridge.
Sorry?
I was seconding Councillor...
Okay,
yeah.
Right, thank you. Okay, so with regards to a site visit, those for a site visit? And those against?
Right, can we do do for and against?
Okay, sorry. Right, so we're going to do that again. Those for a site visit.
That's 3, Chair.
And those against.
That's 11, Chair.
Thank you. Therefore, that's refused. Councillor Gilbourne, did you want to come in?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to make a few comments. I do like the development. It's unusual the way it's split into the 3 parcels, but my questions really come because of that split and that area between A and C as potential future development. I'm just interested to know anything that might be in the offing about that, whether it's links to Councillor Pearce's request for a school to go there or something like that, because I'm looking at the community hub and the cafe that's in parcel C and the nursery, particularly the community hub. It just seems more sustainable if there's going to be more people coming into something like a school, if it's in that parcel of land that's proposed for development in the future. The other question, though, is just about the Section 106 agreement. Obviously, it's great to see how much is being put aside for things like schools, but also I'm interested to know how much is really going towards improving the highways around Stoke Road particularly, and is it really going to be enough for the future growth within the Hoo Peninsula? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chair, thank you very much. Good questions, and there were good points raised by Councillor Pearce. Absolutely. In relation to that missing parcel, don't know yet what's going on there. The individual who owns it isn't interested in selling at this point in time. There has been some conversations, and she's quite, as I understand it, she's quite keen to give something back to the community, but it's very early days. In relation to the point about, well, if we're seeing more development coming to the east of the centre, then surely there is a need for a primary school more towards this side. That is something we're considering, but through the local plan process. Whether it's this site or another site quite close, it is an important consideration, but that's been taken forward through the local plan. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to come back. In terms of the 106 money for the possible send allocation, I'd like that to be more specific. I'd really like to see something coming forward in the conditions to say that money goes to a facility or an educational facility that doesn't have members, doesn't have shareholders, because I can't see why 106 money should be paid out in profits to a shareholder on a SEND facility or a SEND educational facility in Medway. There are other facilities in Medway that are non-profit that they could go to, and I'd like to see that condition amended to that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. So I've just got a couple of questions. I'm very pleased to see that the children's nursery is part of the planning application. It's actually going back to what Councillor Crozer raised about access to play areas, and I just would like some clarification that the proposed play areas will be for the entire local community and will not be for residents only, and that will be very, very clearly communicated. And then I have a follow-up question, but I'll deal with the children's ones first.
Chair, thank you very much. And it was a really good point made by Councillor Crozer, because it has happened on some relatively new estates, one in just around the corner from me in Elm Avenue in Chatham, and there's another one out at Raynham where it's happened there as well, where the local community were thinking that they were getting a play facility. You know, they were having the pain of the development, but thought they were gaining something out of it. And then the new residents, when they moved in, said, well, we're paying a service charge, we're going to lock these. This applicant was also what the developer for the one round the corner from me in Chatham. And we've talked about that, and indeed when they presented to members, I think back in November last year in relation to this scheme, members asked them that very question that you did, Councillor Hamilton, and their response was, we've learnt some lessons from this. We've learnt some lessons in terms of the siting of play areas, but also making sure, through covenants or whatever, that they remain public, so they're not just for these residents.
Okay. And is that clearly communicated in all the planning application, that it will be a publicly accessible play area?
Condition 19 will enable us to make that very clear, but the applicant has been very clear that they will be making it very clear to their residents. Yeah.
And then my second set of questions relates to the proposed biodiversity net gain. So how confident are we that we will have at least a 10% uplift on biodiversity across the proposal?
Aaron, did you want to come back on that?
Thank you, Chairperson. The application was made prior to the introduction of the 10% mandatory B&G, so it won't be required to make 10% as part of this application.
Okay, but they are clearly stating that there'll be a net gain. What will that net gain be?
I believe it's around 1%.
That's quite a difference from 10%.
As I said, the application was made prior to the introduction of the mandatory requirement for 10%, so we can't require them to provide 10% when there wasn't a requirement when the application was made. All that there was a requirement for was that there was a mandatory increase, which has been secured.
Okay, is there any other member? Councillor Peake. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, just one more follow-up question. So I noted that the pylons and the area where the orchard are going to be, is that what they're proposing in terms of the biodiversity net gain?
Yeah, Pete.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the biodiversity net gain area, it's predominantly the area to the as we're looking at that, the sort of right-hand corner of the site. So it will be the scrub area that's created in that parcel, rather than necessarily the orchard trees delivering those net gain requirements.
Sorry. It will be where the location of the pylons are?
Yes, part of it is. There's other bits around the site on the sunset aspects will create some net gain, and some of the new hedgerows that are planted will also provide some net gain. But the area, as Aaron pointed out earlier, that's under the pylons will also deliver that as well.
Okay, Councillor Peake.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for letting me come back. Forgive me if it's in the report and I can't see it, but I've looked again. I'm concerned about volume of traffic. I would like to ask whether that is a concern. There is a reference to Stoke Road where it references the speed limit and how there is speed limit along Roper's Lane, 50 miles an hour is going to be reduced. I can't see anything about actual volume. With this number of properties, considering where it is quite likely there'll be more than one vehicle, cars basically, per household. Is it deemed at all that there's likely to be any impact on the volume of traffic? Because I do have some sympathy with people not losing their ambience of the area. You know, if it goes from somewhere that is countryside-ish and quiet, and then there's a sense of being overwhelmed. Sometimes that can be just a perception and not based in fact, of course. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, did you want to come back on that?
Chair, thank you very much. Absolutely, there'll be more cars as a result of this. And Councillor Crozer was making the point earlier very well in relation to the impact on local on adjacent roads. So there will be an impact. There will be more cars. We've got a significant contribution to try and mitigate that. But I think the other important thing to consider here, and it was picked up by Councillor Hamandishi and others, which is By making this a mixed use, by having employment on site, by being close to the industrial estate of Kingsnorth, where some of the people living here may well go and work, by having the nursery on site, which will serve not only residents of here, but also other residents in the Who area, so it will give them more of a local nursery to go to. By providing that community facility as well. The nursery will be used for community facilities outside of its time for, as a nursery, which is what we've seen at Cliffwoods as well. So that's all helping to reduce the impact of the traffic by making the development more sustainable. And then, as Aaron pointed out, it's not that far from the centre of Who, where you've got pubs, you've got some really great butchers. It's my favourite butchers. They're fantastic cafes, fantastic bakers. Billy's Bakers down there, or Boyce's Bakers, is amazing. Try it. So it's not that far away from that. So it's supporting those local facilities as well, which are within. It's a reasonable walk. And Aaron said it's between 14 and 18-minute walk. But all of that helps to make it more sustainable. But the answer to your question, yes, there will be impact. There will be more cars. We think it's acceptable based on where it's located and those other benefits. But there is a contribution to help to offset those highway issues. The other thing, and I can't remember which councillor it was, whether it was one of the ward councillors, was speaking about the bus service. I think it was Councillor Pearce, quite rightly, was saying, well, give us more details about the bus service. And I'm happy to do so here, because it is really, really important. Out in Kingsnorth Industrial Estate, part of the Goodman proposal, they were required to provide a bus service to the industrial estate for employees. Unfortunately, it didn't work particularly well, and we've got Amazon there, and all the businesses there were operating different shift patterns. Amazon decided to run their own bus. That works very well. The other bus didn't work well at all, and then in COVID, it stopped for a few years. Since then, we've had Uniper come forward. Uniper's scheme has got a Section 106, which requires them to provide a bus service as well. We're now in conversation with Goodman's about that bus service that stopped. We're in conversation with all the employers within the Goodman area, within the Kingsnorth Industrial Estate area, and also we're in conversation with Uniper to get a bus service that works for employers. But in addition to that, we are linking those conversations up, and Councillor Curry's been really, really helpful here, linking those conversations up with Arriva or with New Venture. So rather than being a bus service just for that employment area, it is a public bus service which will then come down Stoke Road and go through Who to Sturdee, but then also coming back through those areas. So it will be an added benefit. It will be an extension to the existing service and an improvement to that. Now we're hoping that we'll bring that forward quite soon. And then these applicants are contributing towards that bus service.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any other member? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. So I've just got one more question. So obviously, as it's a mixed-use development, we also have a children's nursery that's going to be sited on it. How confident are you that it will be that the safety concerns around traffic will be well managed across the site?
How confident am I? I'm pretty confident, Chair. It's a really good question, Councillor Hamilton. I'm pretty confident, and the reason for that is these developers, and this, I think it's the same people who run the nursery, run one out at Cliffwoods, which is on the B2000, which is a similarly very busy road. That's managed very well. So I'm confident that the people running the nursery, as well as the developers, will ensure that safety.
And also, obviously, with the business units that are proposed, you'll have traffic with that. So given that you've got a children's nursery, over 55s housing proposed, and business units, are you satisfied that safety concerns around traffic will be well within safety limits?
Absolutely. Very much so. This is a sustainable development. We want people to walk. I think Councillor Turpin talked about the public footpath network, which is really good around there. So we're encouraging people to walk. It's not far from the centre of Who as well. By creating a nursery, cafe, employment within there, the design as well. It's all about reducing speeds, making development more sustainable, hopefully getting people out of the car, so I'm very happy with this development that it's safe. Yep.
And my last question, will there be EV chargers across the site as well?
Yes.
Any other member? No? Sorry, Pete, over to you.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on a few of the bits that I don't may not have been covered, just for clarity. I think in terms of the comments made by Councillor Sands in his speech about the Yew Tree Lodge and the separation distance, I think you'll see from the layout here, you've got Yew Tree Lodge here, and the separation distance to the new development is quite considerable in terms of that distance. So we think that secures the amenity of those residents of that care facility. I think in terms of the other point Councillor Sams made about the stop line and the history, I think was well picked up by Councillor Galvin, in that this development has been designed with that firmly at the front of its mind, and including the interpretation boards to essentially bring that to life and to make sure that those that move into the properties are aware of the significance of that stop line. I think it was Councillor Crozer again talked about the Sturdee Club and its role as a community facility, which again was picked up very well by Councillor Field, in that the development proposes a community facility as part of that as well. So it sort of brings that back into existence. And then we've covered the play area publicly available aspect. And I think the only other thing I've got to say in terms of Councillor Hamilton's points about the safety and the sort of access, you've got the nursery sort of cafe area and the commercial elements, and because you've got two access points for this parcel off Stoke Road, you will naturally keep the two types of traffic away from each other, and that's part of the design of the scheme and how that's come to fruition through that. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anyone else have any other comments? Any member? No? Okay. Right, I've listened and taken on board the representations that we've heard from the ward councillors and members, but the facts are we have an out-of-date local plan. We do not have a 5-year housing land supply. We have a housing crisis. The government want to build 1.5 million homes in 5 years, and in 2023 to 2024, only 200,000 homes were built. As a planning committee, we need to show that we are serious about homes being built to get us out of this housing crisis. If we refuse this planning application, it's likely that it will win at appeal and we'll be liable for costs as well, which is money coming out of the public purse. All of this needs to be taken into consideration. Councillor Pearce publicly declares himself as an NIMBY. All parts of Medway have to have their share of developments. The population is growing and homes need to be built. As was mentioned earlier, we've got over 900 children living in temporary accommodation. That's not to say that we should allow every planning application that comes through committee, but we need to have the right development in the right place. I like this because there's a good mix of homes. They're providing open space, cafe, community hub, children's nursery, commercial retail floor space. The applicant has a reputation for building good quality homes, which is important for people choosing to live in Medway. So bearing all of this in mind, I will be voting for this application, but I will now hand over to Vice Chair Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Land at the former Sturdee Club and land at Stoke Road, St Werburgh. Recommendation approval subject to A, the expiry of the consultation with Active Travel England, and B, the imposition of any additional conditions recommended as a result of a response from Active Travel England, and no unresolvable objections being received, and C, the applicants entering into agreement under section 106, 1 to 16 as set out under C, and D, the following conditions, numbers 1 to 35, noting the senior planner's comments on the explanation as regards bungalows. I'm going to move all that, Chair, and I'm also going to move a 5-minute break after we've voted on it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Is that seconded?
That's seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Those for the application?
That's 11, Chair.
Those against?
That's 2, Chair.
2. Okay. The application is therefore approved.
Sorry.
No, he didn't. I put
One, yeah. So the application is approved. We're now going to have a 5-minute break. Thank you. Right, now welcome back to tonight's Planning Committee. We're now on agenda item 6, the performance report from the 1st of October to the 31st of December 2024. Chief Planning Officer Dave Harris will be presenting this report, so over to you, Dave.
Chair, thank you very much. Usual performance report, members, in terms of how my team and yourselves have been performing in that period, 1st of October to 31st of December. So here's a number of applications received and determined. You'll see it's probably around about the same as we've received in recent years. One of the things that members will know is that we've received more big applications, albeit that the overall number of applications is a little bit down. But performance against target has been exceptional. Here's major applications determined. So there's our target there. This is our performance, 100% for those ones not subject to extension of time and those ones subject to the extension of time. In terms of minors, that's our target there, 70%. And you can see again, we're well over 80% in terms of those without an extension of time and those with an extension of time closing in on the high 90s. With others applications, they're mostly your adverts and your householder ones. Again, there's our target, 70%. Performance with an extension of time is 100%. Without an extension of time, just again in the high 90s. Application fees, although the number of applications has been down slightly, you can see that in terms of fees received, because we have received quite a few big applications, part of that has been due to the fact that we haven't got a local plan, we haven't got a 5-year housing land supply, so we're a little bit vulnerable, so we have received a number of speculative applications, and you'll see some of them come into committee over the next 6 months or so. The good news, though, is that they bring in fees, so my income has been fairly good. And then that's just looking at the within the statutory time period, which is good. That's looking at how if we have an extension time, how we perform. Again, that is good. How we compare to other local planning authorities, and again, that's pretty good. So the blue is other planning authorities, the orange is us, slightly down on the majors, but we're still at 80%, 88% there. So that's still a very good performance. How we perform compared to others in Kent. This was brought in by the last government. So it's looking at these figures here, percentage of decisions approved, percentage with an extension of time. So we're 90%, and with a presumption in favour of sustainable development, and most applications being pretty straightforward, you should be in the high figures there. Then percentage with an extension of time. That's where you actually, good performance is bringing that down. You'd like, the government really want us to determine applications quickly, and we're down at 20%, which is good when you look at that compared to other authorities there. Major development, the statutory time period is 13 weeks. We're at 39%. You'll see that there are some, Dartford 52%, Gravesham, Maidstone, Sevenoaks are higher than us, Tunbridge Wells at 66. However, our major applications are significant, and they would require Section 106 agreements, significant negotiations, and we need to get it right. So we're outside of the 13 weeks for a lot of applications, but we do enter into planning performance agreements and extensions of times. So although it looks like poor performance, we're actually very good, because we try and make sure that we get the right decision within an agreed time with the applicant. And then that's non-major development within 8 weeks, 62%, householder development, 86%. And those performances, you can see, are good compared to other authorities. In relation to appeals, this is important. So those are a number of appeal decisions that we've received in the quarter, so quite a consistent number of decisions. And then this looks at appeals allowed, dismissed. You'll see that we've more dismissed than allowed. One of the things that members need to be aware of, and you'll see it in the report here, is the government look at, if you have more than 10% of the application, the number of applications you receive in a particular category dismissed, allowed on appeal, then you're doing something wrong and you're poor performing. We're nowhere near 10% on either major developments or other applications. Some authorities are not performing, and MHCLG have written to 15 councils, 15 councils in the last few weeks who have been poor performing, and they've basically been put a notice in terms of improving their decision making or action may be taken against them. And then we've got some prior approvals, permitted development rights, number of units under construction. You'll see that we've been doing what we said that we're going to do. Housing delivery test requires us to have an action plan which says how we're going to work with the development industry to increase house building in Medway for all the reasons the Chair set out at the end of the debate of the last application. And you'll see that a lot of units are there under construction in Medway. In terms of the number of completed, last year was the best year we've ever had in Medway at 1,300, but we're still well below our target. So even at 1,300 for that year, we were 350 odd dwellings below our target. Now with the new way of calculating housing need, our target has reduced to 1,594. So our target's reduced, but we still need to keep working on the delivery of much needed homes, again for all the reasons the Chair set out in a summing up of the last application. That's how we compare to other authorities in Kent. Enforcement is absolutely critical if the public are going to, and you are going to have faith in our planning process. I'm now fully staffed in terms of the enforcement team. Pete manages it incredibly well. Some of you had a presentation from my team in relation to digital planning and bringing in reporter breach. That's now done online. What that is then doing is it's freeing up my officers to actually do the investigations rather than some of the administration work there. So I'm hoping that we'll see these figures continuing to improve. TPOs, we deal with them in-house. I've got 2 posts. I've got a senior tree officer who unfortunately has got no time to deal with TPO applications. So I brought in a consultant to manage, to deal with those, and she is performing incredibly well at getting those decisions issued. I'm also responsible for the lead local flood authority. Many of you have come across the exceptional Gabby. And she is incredible, and you can see her performance there, and the way that she deals with members of public when she goes out and meets them, even people who have suffered terribly with flooding issues. I've sat with her. She's been talking to these people who are pretty distraught, been flooded out for at times, and she works very closely with them to understand what the problems are, how it's been caused, and working to try and find solutions to that. She's an exceptional officer. Complaints and compliments. Members, you'll have heard me talk about someone's going to be unhappy with planning. If we approve something, the objectors or ward councillors are going to be unhappy. If we refuse something, the applicants are unhappy. And therefore we get a number of complaints. With most complaints, they come to me once I've explained how we've reached the decision we have. They go, okay, I might not like the decision, but now I understand how you managed to reach it. If they're not happy with that, they go to the next stage, and if they're not happy with that, they go to the Ombudsman. The report that you've got on page 83 talks about the 3 decisions issued by the Ombudsman. 1 was closed due to no contact or further contact from the complainant. 1 about lack of enforcement action. There was no evidence in the way the council undertook that. And then a further case was found that there was no fault. Members, you'll be aware, particularly those at Overview and Scrutiny Committee, the Ombudsman did find against us on one case where they felt that there was a delay in processing and enforcement. I felt that I don't necessarily agree with what the Ombudsman's decision on that, because it was a relatively minor case, and we were prioritising more major cases which were having a greater impact. So I was managing our resources. I didn't want to serve an enforcement notice because I knew as soon as it went to appeals taking 2 years. So I was trying to negotiate a solution. In the end, as a result of what the Ombudsman did, we finally served an enforcement notice. The appellant has appealed. It's going to take 2 years to resolve. But that's the one case we've had where the Ombudsman has not been in agreement with us. But you'll see on page 83 over to page 84 the compliments about my team. Now, planning's not the most favoured things. You just got to read the papers to see people complaining about overdevelopment, people complaining about enforcement, people complaining about things happening around there. Despite that, and then other people complaining about delays in the planning process. Despite that, page 83 and 84, lots of compliments about my team. I am super, super proud of them, and I hope you are as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Open the floor to members. Any members? Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Dave, for a very comprehensive report. It's very good. A quick question, you may not be able to answer it tonight, but in Appendix E, you give the number of units under construction and the number of units completed. Is it possible to put another table in there showing the number of units that have been approved that are 3 years old or more that have not been started?
Yeah, you're right, Councillor Etheridge. Can I come back on that? Because I do totally understand the reason for asking that question. So if I can come back on that, if we're able to get those figures, then I will happily report them. Yeah.
Councillor Golvin.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dave, for such a very good report once again. And I mean, it's pleasing to see that on all the timeline targets, how well we're performing as a planning authority, which makes what one reads when you go on to section 4.14 of the report of the government's plans for the reform of the planning system. I feel that we, as a planning authority, have been punished for the sins of others, because we've proved this evening that we're capable of making difficult decisions where it's not black and white. In fact, most of the important ones, they're nowhere near black and white. There's always a balance in these things. And I really think the government is taking an axe to local democracy. Because if you read what's planned, for most things, we shouldn't be sitting here. I think that's a real mistake. And I hope that members opposite, as you are now, not only the administration here, but the governing party, do talk to your MPs and tell them they've got this wrong. There should be a system where those that fail get the penalty, not authorities like Medway, who I think we do a reasonable job. And it's not, as Dave says, we can never get it right with everybody. That's never, ever going to happen. And, we've had to make decisions where our voters, we know, are not going to be very happy with us, and they make that perfectly clear. But I think this is a good way of doing it. This is local people making decisions that are going to affect our local area, the area that we live in. And taking that away from us, and with this big stick approach, I think is a terrible mistake. And I think if you're doing away with the planning system, what next is going to go? So I hope members opposite can, have a word with our 3 MPs and tell them that this, please think again on this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Galvin. Any other member? No. Oh, Councillor Turpin.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just looking at the number of units under construction, and just in, I know sort of Councillor Etheridge has asked a similar question with regards to sort of how many are outstanding for 3 years, but I just if we can have that contrasted with the number of units we've granted permission for. I don't know, is that in here? I don't think it is, but I might have missed it. Apologies, because I don't normally sit on this committee, but it'd be really helpful to see that sort of connection, because I appreciate it's not going to match, because you're not going to get permission and necessarily immediately start building it the next day. So there is obviously going to be some delay, but it'd be helpful to see sort of year on year what if it pretty much matches, you know, or if you can see it. And because I just noticed, like last year, there was quite a considerable dip. Do we know, because it runs up until 31st of March, we're about to get the 2025 figure. Do we know if that's back up, or?
I will know in a few weeks.
Okay.
So even I don't know yet, because
Yeah.
the team, you know, they can't do that. They produce that figure until after the end of March. What you've asked, Councillor Turpin, completely understand that. I see no reason why we can't do that in terms of, you know, for the year, the number of homes given planning permission. As you say, it won't. It will just show for that time period the units permitted, because as you quite rightly say, it's 2-3 years normally before you start to see something being delivered. So you've summed that up perfectly. But I can do that. Yeah, if members would like that, that's fine.
So I know we see sort of application numbers maybe, but it's obviously those applications can vary in numbers from 5 to sort of 250 or something. So it'd be really helpful to see the number of units. Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other member? Councillor Peake.
No, I was just thinking all of us are more quick to moan and groan when things go wrong, and I think we should all say thanks to the team, the planning team, and thank you, Dave, for bringing those graphs to life, so that actually really means something to me. And I'm glad to see there are occasions when you do not rush. You do take your time when it's complicated and it's done properly, and you've got such a good hit to miss ratio. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other member? No? Yes, I'd just like to thank Dave and all of your team for all of the hard work, for what you've achieved, especially when you bear in mind the pressure on officer resources that you have. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
That's all right. So I now move over to the Chairperson, Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I certainly support what both yourself and Councillor Peake has said. I've also listened to what Councillor Galvin has said. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to comment further this evening, but I've heard what he has said on the subject of reform of planning committees. So the recommendation is the Planning Committee is asked to consider and note the report which is submitted to assist the committee in monitoring planning activity. I believe we've done that, and I so propose, Chair.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Okay, those for?
That's 15, Chair.
The report is therefore approved. Moving on to agenda item 7, appeal decisions from the 1st of October to the 31st of December 24. Chief Planning Officer Dave Harris will be presenting this application, so over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Chair. Appeals members, you know that in terms of reporting to you, I don't report every single appeal decision that we've received. I just report those ones which have been either allowed on appeal or where we've had a decision where on an application where members have come to a different decision to the recommendation of officers. In this case, Appeal A was conversion to a part retrospective application for construction of a loft conversion, dormer to rear and roof lights to front to facilitate the conversion of a single dwelling house to form a 10-person large house in multiple occupation. And then Appeal B was the same house but for a different number. In this case, the reasons why we refused the application was that although the room sizes met the HMO licence requirements. They fell below the national space standards that we use here in planning. So we didn't feel that this was providing a satisfactory level of accommodation for the occupiers of this. The inspector disagreed with us. He said that, well, they comply with the HMO licenses. In relation to your space standards, you haven't got a policy that links to it. It goes back to that local plan thing. So we will be working in two things that we are doing. One, we'll be having a policy in the new local plan on HMOs, but also we're going to be working on a guidance note in relation to what we think it represents best practice for HMO. So that will be in relation to room sizes and also communal areas and so on, because it's important that the residents living in these properties are living to within a reasonable standard of accommodation. Now, some members joined myself and the chair at a site visit a couple of weekends ago, where we went to look at a high quality HMO in Gillingham, and it was really, really high quality. The rooms are fantastic. I think I had difficulty getting one of the councillors out of the rooms he was moving in. They had a cinema in the rear garden. They had a gym in the rear garden. It was really, really high quality. What we need to do is to get all the other HMOs up to that sort of standard. So that's in relation to that appeal, or those appeals. And then the final one relates to a TPO where we were recommending certain works to a tree be undertaken. The inspector took a different view to my officer. Disappointing, but I can just about understand the reasons why the inspector made that decision. That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any members? No? I therefore move over to Vice Chairperson, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation on this one is the committee is asked to consider and note this report, which is submitted to assist the committee in monitoring appeal decisions. I believe we've done that, so I so propose, Chair. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Those for?
It's 15, Chair.
The report is approved. Now we move on to the last item on the agenda, which is Section 106 agreements, which Chief Planning Officer Dave Harris will be presenting. So over to you, Dave.
Chair, thank you very much. Essentially, this report is about Section 106 applications where what funding has been received in the quarter, what agreements have been completed in the quarter. And I'm grateful for my team, but I also need to mention the legal officer that's here, who has a really difficult job trying to manage other sides' legal teams and getting them to actually do what they're supposed to do. And then the last appendix relates to the Samsbird contributions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any member? Councillor Field.
I just wanted to follow up with the question that I asked last time around Cliff Woods, and we've received communication from our transport planning side that the bus route 131, is it 131 or 19? No, 131. Apologies, all this is destroying my reputation as the bus nerd. Just to say, it's really good to see that service doubling in frequency from April. So really good, and it's good news for my community as well in the Cliff Road corridor. So thank you for that positive action.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pass that on to the officers and including the Rob Carman and his team as well.
Any other member? No, so over to Vice Chairperson, Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. The committee considers and notes the report. I so move.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Those for?
That's 14, Chair.
Those against? Ah, okay. Right, thank you, officers and members. That is, no, sorry, the report is approved. Thank you. Thank you, officers and members. That is now the end of tonight's planning committee.